Good morning and welcome to the AutoTalk Weekly Wrap. Today is another Express edition because I'm really busy.
You say that now.
And Graham's got to run off and sell 100 Twitter Aquas today. And David's got to go ride his motorbike. Yeah.
Yep.
No, not today.
Is it a bit wet down there?
It's wet and incredibly windy, although not quite as windy as last night. But yeah, the last couple of days have been pretty vicious.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's been lovely up here. It's blue, clear, warm. It's got everything. Graham, Henderson?
Sunny Henderson out here, and a yard full of aquas and everything else. The lights could rain upon us. So yeah, we'll go out there and we'll shift 120 of those things between now and tomorrow. That's how it works, right?
Yep. See, David, you're just in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Well, it was beautiful earlier on in the week. My daughter and her partner went swimming on Sunday. That's how nice it was.
Oh.
Swimming in the harbour, just out our back gate.
There are those people. I've heard of them. There are those people.
Yes, yeah. My wife and daughter at the beach yesterday too, but we're in Northland, so that should be able to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have had quite the busy week, haven't we, Graham?
Yeah, we have. I'm still recovering from it. I'm buggered about 10 o'clock at night.
So
not like me.
We, of course, had to go to Christchurch for the fantastic AutoTalk Live event, which we'll get into in a minute. But Graham and I decided we'd do it the hard way and that we would combine it with a range test of the BYD Sea-Line 6. Now, BYD claims this car will do 1,070 kilometres on the NEDE scale, which some people believe stands for never even damn close. It's considered a bit of a optimistic scale. But we seem to prove it wrong. So we drove this car overnight and via the ferry from Auckland. Hope we'd get to Cathedral Square in Christchurch. That was the whole vibe theme of the video, what we're going to do. Britomart to Cathedral Square. We didn't make it. We went a heck of a lot further. So, my pick was we would get close, but not quite. And instead, we made it to Timaru. And then another 30 km further.
Further than Timaru. We would have, except you and I were both broken then by Timaru. And we had to hand our man cards in at that point and say we admit defeat and then start driving north again.
And that was,
for those of you who wonder why we did that, it's because we were holed up. We were going to stay the night in Christchurch getting ready for the AutoTalks Live event the next morning. And so every kilometre further we drove south was another kilometre we had to drive back again. And so we admitted defeat in Timaru.
We should have just driven around Christchurch. Anyway, so that was pretty good considering that the car had 250 kilos of human on board and a couple hundred kilos worth of magazines and camera gear and suitcases and luggage and so forth. It was quite the effort. 1,186 kilometres. Now, if we hadn't had the load on board and we'd driven a little more cautiously, because we ran the climate and did 110 on the Waikato Expressway, and I'm sure when I was having sleep, Graham was having a bit of a drive.
Yeah. You stepped through all the fun parts.
I reckon 1,300 kilometres. And now, yes, you can go and do that in pretty much any European diesel from the mid 2000s on. But where are those cars now? Where are those cars now?
Well, I'm careful on that because I've been accosted since then by plenty of owners of elderly Mercedes-Benz taxi diesels telling me just how wonderful they are, and they're still out there. They're actually still chugging away at
exactly. But you can't buy the new. And it was funny. Someone found an example of what they could get now. Because I don't believe you can even get a diesel 3 Series at the moment. Diesel 3 Series was one of the range champions as well. And even we looked, one of the cars that people put up as being a possibility now is the Mercedes-Benz GLE. You can still get those with a diesel. And I looked, and as of this month, you can get them as a diesel, but a diesel hybrid. Probably makes it even more likely to do it. But
I can say.
Yeah. So here's the real question, Richard. So you did 1,170, did you say?
86.
1186.
So what was the fuel economy for that run? Before I make a comment, I wanted to know that.
We've still got to run the exact numbers, but if you include the electric, about 5 flat.
5 litres per 100k?
Yeah.
That's not bad. You see, that's a weighty car because it's a plug-in hybrid.
Yep.
So it's got a bigger battery, so it's got a bit of weight to start off with, and then a couple of decent-sized blokes and a bit of gear. That's a real-world driving experience, and that is impressive for a car like that, and that's the sort of range that people want to see, in my view. So to me, that's good on them for bringing in a vehicle like that, and I see other manufacturers are following. I think Subaru announced a vehicle in Japan. I'm not sure if it come down here, but I'm hoping it will, where they expect to get 1,100 kilometres out of their vehicle. It's the same sort of technology. And I think from, as we go from an ICE to a low emissions technology, the more manufacturers can bring out PHEVs that do this sort of thing in a New Zealand context, then I think that is really good, because people like to travel in New Zealand, and that's a good mix. I think that's a fantastic outcome.
Now, BYD's boss Warren Wilmot, he is so excited about what we achieved that he's considering bringing out a left-hand drive BYD Kin, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it, which is a Camry competitor. Largely, it's predominantly used as taxi and rideshare vehicle in China. A pretty luxurious big sedan, basically. Very similar drivetrain to what's in the Sea Lion, and it will do 2,100 kilometers apparently. So that would mean Auckland to, actually the length of the country.
It means Cape Reinga to Bluff.
Yep, with a bit to spare.
And a bit to spare.
Tiny bit to spare. Yep.
Yeah, Cape Reinga into the Bluff and then probably back up to Queenstown again. That would be interesting. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway,
I know a guy.
Yeah. We wouldn't be doing that one cannonball, I don't think, Graham. I think that one will be stopping and starting the stopwatch for that. And
it's an interesting point with all these economy runs we're talking about. We're missing a couple of things. So on the serious point, David, you mentioned that Kiwis like to drive. I think when it comes to hyper range on these vehicles, it's as much the sentiment that they can rather than the practical use, because very few people are going to actually drive those sort of distances. But it's just we hear it time and time again. These new EVs, they're going to do 100 Ks and you've got to refuel them. I know your car is only a couple of hundred and you're stuffed, buddy. So without actually understanding that most people actually do only drive those sort of distance before they stop. But it's actually can do really good distances. You needn't worry about heading off to your charging station or your petrol station for quite some time. But the other more important point is, I don't want vehicles to have too much range, because where the hell am I going to get?
Yeah, it's not that, Graham. It's not that. I think it's just, if you like me, I do stop at cafes and things, but I don't like stopping at that sort of stuff. I don't know, it's just me. I like to fill it out.
Well, you got fuel stations in Wellington, do you?
Die hard, so he's a special case.
I like to fill my vehicle up and then run up to almost empty before I fill it up again. But that doesn't prevent me stopping people. They just, you're right, they like the thought of that range, and it's a convenience factor. Yeah. I think it's a big selling point. But when they stop running off pure electric and they go into hybrid mode, that's why you get around about 5 litres per 100k. You're still getting a good fuel saving over the ICE equivalent, and it's the practicality of that. Bring out larger PHEV batteries, so you can get a range of 100 to 120 k's on pure EV, which deals with your day-to-day running. And then when you do your trips, you've got the range for the trips.
Battery works really well in New Zealand. Something I found, I think, was a real telling thing with the Sea Lion, in that car keeps 25% of electric in reserve at all times. Going up hills, that thing really seemed to use its battery then and regen down the other side. Yeah. More so than your typical, say, look, a RAV4, great car, brilliant car, best hybrid car on the market. But if you're up a big hill on an open road thing, it's spent its battery by the time you're 20% up the hill, 23%
Yeah.
up the hill, and then it just becomes a petrol car. This thing worked the other way. It certainly seemed to get pretty smart at saving its battery to spank it up the hill.
It did.
And we were finding, I actually found the car was dropping range less on hilly bits than the Canterbury Plains. Just the nature of how it was able to regenerate fuel energy.
The regen was impressive, and also just like Reanimator or Dracula himself on the actual run from BYD, given the go ahead to do this, we drove that car to destruction when it came to its empty of everything. We drove it until it would not operate any longer, and the battery and that's finished. It just kept on keeping on, and it would give us indications that all was not well, and it really was running out. And you really should do something about it right now. Even in the final stutter along sort of the State Highway 1 north of Temuka, it still kind of gave a, "Are you sure?" And then there's a little bit left again to do a little bit more, just in case we we're quite sure.
Yeah, when we bailed out, the car could still do 40 kilometers an hour, and it was slow. It was dropping fast, so we bailed out. And the great thing about that car,
we would have made it.
and I looked at it, and the amount of times along the way, if we'd charged every time we stopped on a fast charger, then we would have made Dunedin all further without adding any fuel if we just charged one of those things. But anyway, we need to move on because we don't want to be here all day. Now, here's a wee photo of Mr. McDonald pouring fuel into that poor abused car that I believe is now for sale at Euromark Holdings, Euromark dealership in Christchurch. Yes,
it's got pedigree now.
Anyway, it's famous. It's world famous. 100 tickets sold, 96 in the room because only 4 no-shows, which is pretty good for an event. I think a couple of them were busy because they had a shipment of cars arrive, and yeah, you get people. Through a few pics from that event. There is the room at the Ridges Latimer Square. Bit of a boring room for an AutoTalk Live, but we'll find something more interesting for next year. It seemed to do well. We got in a little bit of trouble because the dealers were so enthusiastic with their networking. They were a bit noisy and slightly upset. Now, that's Stephen Timberley presenting the Deloitte Industry Benchmarks. Always a great way to start. We have Michael Clark from Impel AI there talking about AI and the tools and how they work within dealerships. Better, doing a great presentation about some of the tech they're using now, including a voice AI assistant making calls for Amos that I felt a little too emotionally invested in the situation. But that's technology, I guess, and it's improving every day. Mark Greenfield from Motor Central talking about making the cut, making sure you're still in the game when it comes to actually being there when someone makes the decision to buy. We had a fantastic industry panel with Greg Epps from VIA, Amy Wiley from the Motor Industry Association, and Lee Marshall from the Angela Jorgensen from Community Financial Services talking about the Triple CFA. It was a really engaging talk there. And then this prick, Mr. Boot. Anyway, he gets the crowd laughing.
Organisation,
He gets the crowd laughing. We'll give him that. Talking about carbon or something like that. I don't know. Yes. Thank you for helping with that, Graham. I believe that the question of the day prize, which was won by someone from Cook Hallinson.
Mark from Cook Hallinson, I think it was.
Mark from Cook Hallinson. I believe that is going to breast cancer. So fantastic.
Nice.
They've donated that $500 to charity.
Well done, guys.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming along. We'll be announcing Auckland really soon, and we'll be back in Christchurch 100% next year. Open to any ideas or feedback from people who went or who want to go to this kind of an event. I think we might need more than 2 a year. Let's see what we can come up with. Because, yeah, I just think there's such a cool way for the industry to get together and discuss and understand some pretty cool ideas. David, we'd love to do one in Wellington, but Wellingtonians just don't go to events. Why?
That's a good question. I think there had been quite a few down here over the years, but well, a lot of your target audience would be officials, and officials increasingly find it difficult to get permission en masse to come to events like this because it's treated as a jolly by the politicians. So it becomes more of a political effort to get people there for these sorts of events. But, you know, there's a good dealership distribution around Wellington, Lower Hutt, Parapara and Upper Hutt. So you still got a target audience from industry players. I don't know the answer to that question, Richard.
Maybe we'll try it in the Hutt next time. We've tried in Wellington Central, didn't work. Tried in Palmerston North, worked pretty well. Actually, people driving up from Wellington. But maybe we'll do the Hutt next time. Let's find some. We'll have to chat somewhere, David, about an interesting location in the Hutt, even if it's just for a smaller mini event. We'll see how we go with that. Right, let's run through some news for the week. We're going to do this in reverse order, so the oldest news to the newest news. I haven't put it in order of importance or anything this time around. And let's start off with an anniversary. Tour New Zealand Miles Group celebrate Bill Potter's 30th anniversary. That man does not look like he's worked 30 years in a dealership. It's not enough lines on his face. No, Miles Toyota Airport Service Manager Bill Potter has received a 30-year service certificate from Tour New Zealand in recognition of his tenure with the brand. The company says Potter has been a critical figure in the service teams at Ireland Toyota and Miles Toyota Airport, and his experience, leadership and dedication have played a crucial role in the privately owned dealership group's ongoing success. Miles Toyota Chief Executive Mark Mills says Potter is a true legend and a Miles Group lifer, and thanked him for his service. That sounds a bit prisonish. I joined the Miles Group.
It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, I joined the Miles Group after the opportunity arose to become the leading hand at a brand new boutique workshop on Orchard Road, the Miles Toyota Airport, and then moved to work under the Ireland Toyota brand in 1994. Been part of the Miles team ever since, and I've enjoyed growing from leading hand with a team of 4 to managing a dynamic team of 14 and working with a great bunch of people at Ireland and Miles Toyota, who, like me, will do their best for the company and our customers. I'll probably hang around longer and continue this journey, destination unknown. Lovely story there. Hang on to your long-termers, people, because it's a heck of a lot cheaper than training someone new. Right. Auckland SC signs Cupra as official vehicle partner. Auckland SC has signed Volkswagen Group's Spanish challenger brand Cupra as its new motor vehicle partner for the 2024-2025 season, which has just kicked off. The announcement was made at Cupra's North Shore Auckland showroom. Auckland FC head coach Steve Carica and a couple of team members were in attendance. Cupra also partners with FC Barcelona and the Australian women's national soccer team, known as the Matildas, and is also looking forward to sport football in New Zealand. There you go. The pro football in New Zealand's a weird one in that I don't know anyone who supports it. They seem to have relatively full stadiums. The Phoenix certainly seems to do well.
I just don't know anybody who goes. I don't have anybody. I've got, all the usual Warriors friends crowd and the Eden Park friends crowd and all that sort of stuff, but I actually don't know anybody at all who goes to football. That's not a bad thing. I'm not suggesting otherwise. That
sports sponsorships still seem to pay off because car companies seem to queue up to get them. I mean, there's pretty much some legendary associations out there that just live on.
Yeah, the Wellington Stadium tends to get about 10 to 12,000 for the games. I've been to a few. Partner's boyfriend plays soccer. He goes. I know quite a few people who go. They like the entertainment. It's quite a different sort of feel to it. And they don't spread out around the stadium either. They sort of clump together and then they wave the yellow and black. It's quite an atmosphere. It reminds me a little bit of rugby sevens in terms of the atmosphere. It's quite a party experience. And
the Warriors are very good at that. The Warriors may not be that good at making it their year, but from what I understand, they put on one of the best entertainment packages in sport in New Zealand. And I know Great Wall in recent times has done very well out of their association with the Warriors. So.
Yeah, loyalists, absolute loyalists.
Yes. Now, a not so good story. The MG3 has received a 3-star ANCAP safety rating. ANCAP Safety has applied a 3-star safety rating to both versions of the new MG3 light passenger car. The new MG3 has introduced a range of safety features and technologies not seen on the previous generation model, a significant step forward, says ANCAP. Mixed levels of performance were noted for the MG's structure and restraints in physical crash tests, especially the lack of a centre airbag, critical to vehicles of its size, ANCAP says. You can go over to AutoTalk Australia for the full story. That's got a bit of a concern because I think this was quite an important model for MG going forward, and for them to not get a 5-star, and that certainly will damage its potential, I think, with fleets and rental car fleets as well, where this car would be going into. The centre airbag thing I think is a bit of a weird thing, but I think the concern is that there's a structural issue to the car. I don't know if that's something MG can fix.
I was surprised when I read the story, Richard, and disappointed in a way. But there are some consequences of a 3-star. I was surprised it was 3 and not 4. But a 3-star in today's age for a new vehicle is quite poor. And it plays to those that don't like vehicles out of China, and they remember the poor quality that used to come out of China, and they say, oh, well, it's still just a Chinese junk. And that's a very unfortunate perception to have created. So I hope they fix it. If there are some structural issues, that suggests quite a design change required to meet it.
So narrowly missed on the 4-star due to issues with the safety assist score. It only scored 58% and needed 60% required to hold a 4-star threshold. But there were concerns around injury protection to child occupants was mixed, with poor and marginal scores recorded to the chest of a 10-year-old child dummy, in the side impact and frontal offset impacts, respectively. The frontal offset test yielded a mix of good, adequate, and marginal results. With hard areas, the underside of the dashboard likely present a higher injury risk to the legs of both the driver and front passenger. Head and chest protection in the rear was marginal. I mean, look, some of this is the fact that it's just a very small car, and might is right, I guess, is a bit of a thing sometimes. And small cars do, I guess, struggle, but there are 5-star small cars out there. So yeah, hopefully they can fix that. Maybe it is material differences in the interior, or who knows. But I'm sure MG will be very much watching that. They had a poor crash result recently with the last year with the MG5, which is sold only in the Australian market. But they kind of defended that initially based on the fact that not every car can be priced to include so many active features to get up there in the rankings. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with this this case here, because this, I think, was considered more of a model that would do okay. Now, Cadillac and GM New Zealand moving into former Tesla Auckland premises. New Zealand's first Cadillac Experience Centre will open in the second quarter of 2025 in the former Tesla premises at 501 Karangahape Road, Auckland. It will also be the home to GM New Zealand, whose offices will be relocated from Mangere East to a dedicated space from the Karangahape Road site. That's quite the upgrade. Customer orders for New Zealand will commence in January 2025, first through Cadillac's online configurator, and we pair with a charge and warranty offer. Test drive vehicles will be available from early next year, first from a pop-up location, before moving to the Experience Centre in the second quarter. They say the new centre has been designed by a Swiss company. It looks a bit like the Tesla showroom with a paint job to me, but that's just me being a little bit cynical. No word yet if they're going to keep the charging tunnel, which was downstairs for the Tesla building. You could go in downstairs and fast charge at the bottom of the building and access a customer lounge. But yeah, an impressive building. They say it's not on a dealer strip, about 100 metres from Ford and several other brands and Giltrap and everyone, so not entirely true.
Well, it's probably the right company, actually. And it's not just a dealer strip. It actually is that end of Great North Road now has become the premium end of retail. There's not a lot of base level stuff going on. It's the sort of, I suppose, the spiritual home of the Giltrap group and a lot of high-end marques. You've got Lamborghini just down the road, for example. So no, I think it's probably in keeping. I noted though that Cadillac has certainly been ramping up the social media pre-release marketing has been going gangbusters. So for an order date of January 25, I would almost suggest and say it's a little bit early perhaps to be pushing that on social media at this stage. I don't know. I'm not privy to how these things work, but if the interest level is building there, it's still quite a long time between drinks until you can actually go and order one, let alone have access to one.
It's not out of kilter with some of the marketing for new models. I noted that several motorcycle brands, and Yamaha in particular, will start heavily promoting new models coming out about 18 months ahead of time, and then at 12 months ahead of order, they really start pushing it and they build up this sort of pent-up demand. I wasn't surprised to see Cadillac go into that building because it's a luxury brand, and so they want to position themselves away from the GM of old, and they're in this process of renewing their brand into a luxury brand. And soon we won't remember GM as a people car like Ford. It's going to go up market. Certainly their big trucks, and then this and the Corvette sports car puts them in an entirely different market segment to where they used to be.
I wasn't surprised either, because the current head of marketing for GM Australia, Heath Walker, was at the time that dealership was built the head of communications and marketing for Tesla New Zealand and Australia. So he oversaw it the first time. He's getting back the second time.
He knows what the PowerPoints are.
I've had coffee with Heath in that location, or at least near that location. It's
a good location.
Yeah, it's a great.
Yeah,
location.
it's a good location, and I think
surprisingly for it's got a massive service centre underneath.
Yeah,
access from either end of the block, so you can actually access the whole thing from a tunnel at the far end of the block and the next road down, and then you can exit through the through the back there. So.
And unless they do massive changes to the building, of course, it's going to look like the old building with a new paint job and new decorations. It's just not a lot you can do with the structure, but it's a good location. And you're right, Graham. It's right next door to similar type brands. It's all a mindset, and I think kudos to the way in which they are marketing this vehicle, because they certainly are creating a mindset about it. It's hard to ignore.
They've also nailed the price. That lyric is.
It's a good price.
It's about the same price as the original list price for a Ford Mustang Mach-E, and not to be rude to the Mach-E, but the Cadillac is a class above. It's a vehicle from a different class. It's a very high end luxury vehicle. So yeah, interesting to see. Now the MB has launched a new motor vehicle traders register. Portal. The Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment launched a new motor vehicle traders register portal on October 21. It replaces and upgrades the older motor vehicle traders register and online services platform. The new portal updates system technology and improves security. All registration details have been transferred into the new register. If you previously had an account to access our old online services portal, you must create a new login profile to access our new system. We'll link there to register. You need a Realme account to set up a login profile. You can use an existing Realme account to access the online system if you have one, and the Realme account doesn't need to be verified. If you don't need a Realme account, they can create one following the instructions on the MB website. Whole pile of new services on there. I suggest you go and have a look at that. I believe that is at motortraders.govt.nz. Or if you want, go to our website, jump on the story, and we've got all the links there to allow you to do what you need to do to sort yourself out for that register. Now, this one's got some cool stuff in it. Mixed Motors hosts a Heritage Day for Spring into Tahoe Festival. Why should we care? Well, look at that car. Look at those cars. Aren't they cool? Mixed Motors is the current naming rights sponsor for the Spring into Tahoe Festival, which is held annually in Tahoe's main shopping centre area. Spring into Tahoe started in October 2000, was established by local businesses keen to have a market day. It features stalls, entertainment activities, food, and other activities. I'm going to see if I can force these pictures to work. They're not really working properly at the moment on my screen, unfortunately.
I was going to say, from a personal, I've got a friend of mine, Sam Hendricks, who was sort of instrumental at Mixed Motors in pushing some of this sort of stuff to the fore. He has one of those Evo. I think the Evo 4 is his. I'm not sure about the Starion. He has quite a very early Lancer, and I think he has a GSR coupe knocking around somewhere too. Very passionate Mitsubishi guy. And it's people like that really not only keep these things alive, but are actually the push towards the social aspect of making it happen and making sure people turn up and not just advertise it, but people actually are there to enjoy. So hats off to you, Sam, for being instrumental in that one too.
I got to say, I think we're seeing more and more some of these dealerships, people appreciating these 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s Japanese classics more, and more dealerships pulling them out there. It's great to see them popping up and around the place.
The stuff we used to trash, the stuff we used to just buy cheap, trash, throw away, that is all the thing now, isn't it? That's the current hot button on the marketplace.
Now, we've discussed this a couple of times before, so we'll keep it brief on this one, but Tina from Turner's has been voted the best television commercial of the 2020s. I think we're kind of still in the 2020s.
Aren't we still in the 2020s?
Yeah. More than 12,000
Enlighten me here. Haven't we got 5 years to run?
Yeah, more than 12,500 New Zealanders have voted Tina from Turner's the best television commercial of the 2020s, with Lotto's Lost Ticket advertisement as the runner-up. These awards were hosted by the New Zealand Marketing Association, which celebrated its 50th year of supporting local businesses by asking Kiwis to vote on their favourite TV commercial from the last 5 decades. Twitter New Zealand's Bugger campaign won the best TVC of the 90s, and Kiwis also voted an overall best TV commercial from the past 50 years. So if we run through the 70s, the Great Crunchy Train Robbery. I
remember that.
Holly KFC.
So do I. Yeah.
1980s, the BASF's Dear John runner-up with Dear John with the runner-up, the Goodnight Kiwi. Now I will fight that decision. I think the best ad probably BASFS, but the runner-up should be an ad we've shown on this video on this show before, and that's the KFC ad with the Sierra being eaten.
Yeah, but no one remembers it.
Yeah, I didn't run enough apparently.
No.
1990s Twitter Bugger follow up by the Scorched Almonds ad. That's a very cute ad. The 2000s, the Mitre 10 Sandpit, runner-up Kiwis Overseas Vogels. 2010 State Insurance Nothing Gonna Break My Stride. Ugh, that's just earworm, I guess. Runner-up Ghost Chips. Ghost Chips should be the winner there. Ghost Chips is legendary. The ad that launched 1,000 memes. And the 2020s, Tina from Turner's with the run-up, the Lost Ticket, the Lotto one. Turner's Auto Retail Chief Executive Greg Hedgepeth says he is pretty chuffed that Kiwis voted Tina from Turner's as the best campaign of the decade that hasn't finished. Anyway, do we agree with those winners, guys?
Yeah, for the most part, I think there's some pretty iconic ads there that we will all know from our misspent youth. But it's interesting also to note that from about 2010 onwards, 2012, I've got no recollection because I stopped watching, what do they call it, land-based TV about that point in time too. I couldn't tell the last time I've actually watched television. It's just off my radar altogether. So there's a couple of ads in there that I actually have no recollection of at all.
I believe the term initially was they were going with terrestrial TV for a while, but now the term is linear television. Linear television that runs in a line. Because that's the fact that you can get it through multiple sources, but it's one show after another.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot, but even when we stream, there are adverts, but which we can't close off. So we actually record a lot and then just fast forward. The one ad I do recall from my youth would be in the late 70s. Has the byline, "One Day Roger Finch." And that was a classic ad to Trumpet Ice Cream. So,
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Sitting on the bus.
Rachel on the tip-top cone.
Yeah. One Day Roger Finch.
Right. Dunedin Subaru dealer technician taking on the best in Japan. Tom Sanders, a Southern Motor Group Dunedin technician, will represent New Zealand in November at Japan's Subaru World Technical Competition. Subaru Corporation hosted the biennial event featuring technicians worldwide who have qualified for selection in their local regions. Sanders faced a rigorous selection process. Subaru Australia supplied an online entrance exam, which Subaru New Zealand's technical department developed and deployed across the dealer network in New Zealand. He achieved the highest score amongst all participants in the New Zealand network, and his scores were compared with those of his Australian counterparts. This revealed that his skills and aptitude were on par with those of many of the leading technicians in Australia. Subaru New Zealand General Manager Tim Barton-Laws explains the next step in the process. Following Tim's performance on our local pre-selection exam, he was nominated for the next stage, a comprehensive online interactive diagnostics exam designed by Subaru Japan. He successfully passed this exam, inviting him to the Subaru World Technical Competition. He'll go up there and beat them all. I mean, let's face it, with our imports, New Zealanders must be really good at keeping Subarus on the road.
There was a Trade Me auction that finished only, I think, last week. Somebody unearthed a really early Brumby ute, like a 80 or an 81 Brumby down in the depths of South Island, literally pulled out of someone's barn. And it was deregistered and it was rusty, but the auction went absolutely gangbusters. And I think, talk about iconic cars of our youth, those early Subaru four-wheel drives that were just the feature of every single ski field across New Zealand, usually well used and abused with roof rack carriers with multiple skis and a very smelly interior from having to sleep in the back for multiple nights. They're just such an iconic part of New Zealand's motoring landscape. So, yeah, I think being a Subaru technician in New Zealand is you've got your work cut out for you, because the things just keep on keeping on, and they're still out there on the roads today.
Now, last story of the day. Rotorua motorcycle dealer suffers 5th ram raid in 2 years. The Patterson O'Connor motorcycle dealership in Rotorua suffered its 5th ram raid in 2 years around 1:30 am on October 24. Vendors used a vehicle to ram through the showroom's front entrance in White Street, Fenton Park, leaving the building extensively damaged. 2 motorcycles were stolen and more than 15 others inside the showroom were damaged during the raid. Co-director Brian Pattinson told the Rotorua Daily Post he is over it. He's running a business that is constantly burgled and smashed is becoming unsustainable. The business is one of 3 Rotorua motorbike stockers hit in a series of break-ins in August. At the time, the police told the Daily Post that there had been an increase in bike store burglaries and antisocial riding around the city, and they believed organised criminal gangs were responsible. I'm guessing a lot of that comes down to those gangs of young guys riding around without number plates, acting like fools. Patterson said the cost would take some time to determine, as the business must assess each damaged motorcycle. It's an absolute shambles. I don't know the cost, but it will be huge. You start thinking, is it worth carrying on a business with this happening all the time? Yeah. Really sad story. If you need a motorcycle at the moment, go down to Hamilton and Rotorua and go buy one from that guy, because he certainly had a pretty bad run. And I wonder if perhaps motorcycle dealers might need the same support that dairy operators have had in regards to support with security, technology and fitment and so forth. It's a tricky one.
Nothing angers me more on these than the social media muppets that sit there and say, oh, he's just going to claim it on his insurance, just another business, don't worry about it. It's like, do you have any idea what happens when you've got to go through this sort of process for insurance and loss of goods and staff and time off and it really grinds my gears that so many people seem to assume that just because you're a business you have an insurance, and just because of that you're basically right for the plucking to nick whatever you want because you'll be up and running again the next day. And it's really prevalent across a lot of social platforms now around this mentality that somehow it's okay.
Yeah, that gets my goat. This excuse that it's insured, therefore I have a license to steal is just absolute crap. Because at the end of the day, this guy in Rotorua 5 times, what, in 2 years?
Yeah.
He's going to be uninsurable soon. So this guy is asking,
if he's not already.
Can I continue? Insurance companies are going to say, well, no, you're already too high risk for us. We've paid out too much over too short a period. The other thing I can't help but think is that this increase in social misbehaviour around ram raiding and everything, a lot of that I think has been imported from Australia, with 501 deportees and a whole change in that gang scene and the gang mentality and the way in which they go about recruiting people. I know it's a bit of a long straw to draw, but there are the crime rate around these sorts of behaviours has escalated since Australia got really tough on the 501s. So
yeah, look, a lot of the people doing this are younger than the 501s, though potentially. Of course, they may be.
It's the recruiting. That was my
influenced
key
by-
word there, Richard.
Yeah.
It's the recruiting type test that they have to do.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we will. It's highly likely, and it's just it's just so unfortunate. And we really feel for this business. Yeah, not good. But look, yeah, we'll see. Go and check that your bollards are all secured. Looks like he's got a few there. So those guys. Well, look, they've actually literally knocked a bollard out. So. Ooh, not good. Anyway, look, that is it for today. Thanks all of you for joining. Don't forget, come back next week for more great stuff from us. Keep an eye on our various socials and on the website for more news. And we'll see you soon for another AutoTalk Weekly Wrap.